The sun had already dipped behind the rooftops of Enugu when Regina Okafor returned home from the boutique where she worked part-time. The evening breeze carried the scent of roasted corn and suyo smoke, the chatter of Okada riders, and the hum of generators starting up. She pushed open the gate to their small compound and sighed. Inside, her mother, Mama Nkechi, was seated on the veranda, peeling groundnuts and gossiping with a neighbor. The moment she saw her daughter, she dismissed the neighbor with a wave of her hand. "Regina, my daughter," she said, her face lighting up with a smile that was too bright to be casual. "Come inside, I have something to tell you." Regina dropped her bag, suspicious. "Mama, what is it again?" Mama Nkechi leaned closer. "Do you know Chief Nokocha?" Regina frowned. "That old man that owns half of Coal City. The one with the big hotel near Independence Layout." Her mother clapped her hands. "Yes. That one. He came to the boutique today while you were out. He said he likes you. He wants to meet your family." Regina laughed, a nervous laugh that sounded more like disbelief. "Mama, I beg, stop playing. Chief Nokocha is old enough to be my grandfather." And so what?" her mother snapped. "Do you know how many girls will kill for that kind of opportunity? You think beauty alone will feed us? You think that boutique job will buy us freedom from this life?" Regina was silent. She looked around their small sitting room, the fading wallpaper, the worn-out sofa, her younger siblings doing homework by lantern light. She knew her mother was tired. Life had not been kind since her father's death. 2 weeks later, Chief Nokocha came to their house. His convoy blocked the street, 3 black SUVs gleaming in the afternoon sun. Neighbors peeped from their windows. Children gathered by the gate shouting, "Chief! Chief!" He stepped out wearing a white senator outfit, gold-rimmed glasses, and a smile too polished to be sincere. His beard was white, his belly full, and his cologne filled the air. When he spoke, his voice was smooth, confident, the kind of voice that carried the weight of money and power. "Regina," he said, extending his hand, "I've heard so much about you. You are as beautiful as morning dew." Regina managed a small smile. "Good afternoon, sir." He chuckled. "Don't call me sir. You'll make me feel old." Mama Nkechi laughed too loudly. "Oh, Chief, you can never be old. You are young at heart." Regina sat quietly, barely touching her drink. The man before her could be her grandfather. Yet as he spoke about his businesses, his mansion, his travels abroad, a strange curiosity stirred in her. He promised her comfort, a life where she'd never have to worry about bills or shame. That night, Regina lay awake. Her phone buzzed, a message from her best friend, Zara. "I heard the gist. Oh, tell me it's not true that Chief Nokocha wants to marry you." Regina hesitated, then typed back. "He just came to greet my mother. Nothing serious." Zara replied instantly. "Babe, I beg shine your eyes. That man has 5 wives already. You go just be number 6. Regina didn't reply. She scrolled through her social media, influencers flaunting cars, trips to Dubai, designer clothes. She imagined herself in that world. Maybe love could come later. Maybe peace was something money could buy. 2 months passed quickly. Chief Nokocha was relentless. He sent flowers to her boutique, transferred money to her mother for upkeep, and once even bought her a car, a white Corolla with her name on the papers. The whole neighborhood talked. When he proposed formally, it was in a grand restaurant in Lagos. Cameras flashed. The ring sparkled like a piece of the sun. "Regina," he said, kneeling with difficulty, "I want to make you my wife. You deserve the world." For a moment, everything else faded. The whispers, the judgment, even her doubts. She said yes. The wedding was the talk of the city. Traditional dramas played until midnight. Influencers posted her pictures, calling her the youngest wife of one of Nigeria's richest men. Gold bangles danced on her wrists. Her smile was flawless, wide enough to hide the trembling underneath. When the convoy took her to her new home, Chief Nkocho's mansion in Asaba. She stared at the tall gates, the marble floors, the chandelier that sparkled like falling stars. The other wives watched her silently from the staircase, their expressions unreadable. Chief put his arm around her. "My jewel," he whispered. "Welcome to your new life." Regina nodded, forcing a smile. But when she glanced at the other women, she noticed something in their eyes, not jealousy, not anger, but something colder. Pity. That night, as the mansion grew quiet and the generators hummed in the distance, Regina stood by the window in her silk nightgown. She should have felt victorious, but instead, she felt small, like a bird trapped in a golden cage. Her phone buzzed again, another message from Zara. "Congratulations, Mrs. Nkocho. I hope this is what you really wanted." Regina didn't reply. She turned off the light, lay on the softest bed she'd ever known, and closed her eyes, praying that her heart would learn to love the life she had chosen. The first months in Chief Nkocho's mansion were dizzying. Regina woke up each morning to the hum of air conditioners, the scent of fresh flowers, and the soft clinking of glasses from the kitchen staff preparing breakfast. Every room was polished to perfection. Marble floors gleamed, chandeliers sparkled, and the walls were lined with portraits of Chief Nkocho's life, a life she could never have imagined for herself 2 years ago. At first, it felt like a dream. She wore designer dresses daily, attended high-profile events, and received gifts that made her old boutique job feel like a distant memory. People on social media couldn't stop praising her. "Queen of Enugu, youngest wife goes, she's living the life we all dream of." Even the children in the neighborhood whispered her name with envy. Regina smiled through it all, holding her head high. But behind the sparkle, behind the silk and the gold, cracks were beginning to show. The mansion was crowded. Chief Nkocho had 5 other wives, each with their own room, their own staff, and their own subtle politics. Some mornings, she would come down to breakfast to find their eyes on her, calculating, measuring, weighing her presence. The eldest wife, Mama Ifioma, was polite but sharp. She would smile, but Regina could feel her judgment, her quiet warnings. Regina quickly learned the rules of the house. Do not overstep, do not complain, and never, ever show weakness. Every gesture, every word, was scrutinized. Even Chief Nkocho's attention, once warm and flattering, became inconsistent. Some days, he would sit with her for hours, discussing plans for the hotels, the investments, the trips abroad. Other days, he would barely acknowledge her presence, leaving her in the vastness of the mansion, sipping on freshly squeezed juice, her heart hollow. One evening, she tried to speak with him. "Chief, I feel lonely sometimes." He waved a hand dismissively. "Regina, I beg, I provide everything you need. Money, comfort, everything. What else do you want?" I want your time," she whispered, her voice barely audible. He sighed, leaning back into his chair. "Time is money, my dear. You will understand when you grow older." Regina nodded, forcing a smile, but that night, as she lay in bed alone, she felt the first stirrings of doubt. The luxury she had fought for, the glamour she had dreamed of, was starting to feel like a cage. Her friends from the old neighborhood called sometimes. Zora's messages were constant, full of concern and advice. "Regina, I beg, don't forget yourself. You're not just a ring on his finger. Remember your dreams. Don't let this life swallow you whole." But Regina had no time to respond. The mansion demanded her presence, the social media spotlight demanded her perfection, and the other wives demanded, well, everything Regina couldn't name. The turning point came during a dinner in the mansion's grand hall. Chief Nkocho had invited business partners for a celebration. The table glittered with crystal glasses, silverware, and dishes Regina couldn't pronounce. She sat beside him, trying to smile, when one of the wives, Ada, leaned over with a grin that was too sweet. "Oh, Regina," Ada said softly, "I see you're learning the ropes." Regina forced a laugh. "Yes, Ada. I'm trying my best." Ada's eyes glimmered. "Just remember, my dear, the ropes in this house are tricky. One misstep and..." She left the sentence hanging. Regina felt her stomach twist. The warning was clear: in Chief Nokocha's house, wealth did not protect you from loneliness, envy, or manipulation. Weeks turned into months. Regina's days became a repetitive cycle: early breakfast, charity events, shopping, more photos, dinners with the chief. Each night, she returned to her room, scrolling through her phone, seeing Zora's messages piling up, untouched. She started feeling disconnected from herself. The joy she had imagined was fleeting, replaced by a gnawing emptiness. One rainy afternoon, Regina sat in the library, a book open but untouched. She watched the rain trace paths on the windows, feeling as if each droplet mirrored her own tears. The mansion, with all its grandeur, felt smaller than ever. The laughter of the other wives echoed in the halls, but none of it reached her. Chief Nokocha had been away on business for a week. Messages on her phone went unanswered. She felt invisible, even in the spotlight of luxury. She tried to talk to him again when he returned. "Chief, can we spend time together, just us?" He looked at her, eyes tired, as if her words were a burden. "Regina, you have everything. You have comfort, fame, and security. You need to learn to be patient. My attention cannot always be yours. Life is not like the movies." Regina's heart sank. Patience. That word felt like a chain tightening around her dreams. She realized something she hadn't wanted to admit: love and money were not the same thing. Wealth could buy things, yes, but it could not buy warmth, understanding, or genuine companionship. By the end of the year, Regina had become a public figure, photographed for magazines, praised for her elegance, envied for her beauty. Yet inside, she felt hollow. Nights were the worst. She would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, tears brimming, imagining a life she could have had: friends, freedom, a future not dictated by the whims of a much older man. The mansion had given her everything she thought she wanted, but it demanded a heavy price: her youth, her autonomy, her sense of self. And slowly, like water wearing away stone, the glamour began to lose its sheen. One evening, Zora visited. Regina barely recognized her own reflection in the mirror as she opened the door. "Regina. My dear, how are you? You've been hiding from the world," Zora said, her voice full of concern. Regina tried to smile. "I'm fine, Zora. Just busy." Zora's eyes softened, scanning the opulent interior. "I beg, my sister, this is not the life I dreamed for you. I can see it in your eyes. You're not happy." Regina looked away, unable to speak. She wanted to tell her friend everything: the isolation, the loneliness, the endless cycle of appearances. But pride and fear held her tongue. That night, Regina sat alone in her room, scrolling through old photos of her family, her friends, the simple moments she used to cherish. She wondered how she had traded them for this gilded cage. She thought of the life she had imagined, the freedom she had dreamed of. And for the first time since the wedding, she felt a deep, gnawing regret. The palace of gold had shown her the illusion of happiness. She had everything she thought she wanted: money, status, admiration, but none of it filled the void in her heart. The luxury that once dazzled her now felt suffocating, a constant reminder that she had traded her youth and joy for glitter. Regina closed her eyes that night, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. She realized that life in the mansion, with all its beauty, was not hers. And somewhere deep inside, a small flame of defiance began to flicker, a whisper that one day, she might reclaim the life she had lost. The mansion, once glittering with promise, now felt cold and silent. Months had passed, and the early excitement of wealth and status had faded into routine and emptiness. Regina Okafor moved through the grand halls like a ghost, her smile polite, her eyes distant. The other wives carried on with their lives, each absorbed in their own schemes, while Chief Nokocha spent more and more time away: board meetings, travels abroad, hospital visits. Regina barely saw him anymore, except during rare evenings when he would appear in the drawing room, exhausted, and nod at her without a word. The social media praise that had once lifted her spirits now grated on her nerves. Photos of her at events, elegantly dressed, comments calling her the envy of young women, felt hollow. Regina would scroll through them at night, her heart heavy, her hands trembling. She no longer recognized the girl who had said yes to a life of luxury. It started with small things. Missed meals, delayed messages, and silent rooms. Chief Nkocha stopped asking about her day. The other wives stopped acknowledging her presence except for obligatory greetings. Regina's laughter, once forced but bright, disappeared. She spent hours in her room staring at the walls, her thoughts turning darker by the day. One evening, she tried to confront Chief Nkocha. He was in his study, reviewing documents under the harsh glare of a desk lamp. "Chief," Regina began softly, "can we talk?" He didn't look up. "About what, Regina?" "Everything is fine. I feel lonely. I feel like I don't belong here. I thought this life would make me happy, but..." Her voice broke. He sighed, placing his pen down. "I beg, my dear, you knew what this was when you married me. This is a life of responsibility, not childish dreams. You have money, comfort, status. That should be enough." Regina's hands clenched at her sides. "It's not enough. I thought love would come with this, but it hasn't. I don't feel anything." He shook his head. "Regina, I beg, stop imagining things. Life is not about feelings. It is about survival. You should be grateful. Grateful." The word stung like a slap. Regina realized she had spent her youth chasing wealth at the expense of her own heart. The mansion, the parties, the trips, they had come at a cost she hadn't anticipated. In the following weeks, the emotional distance grew. Regina stopped attending social events. She skipped dinners and spent long hours alone in her room. She avoided the other wives, who whispered behind her back, calling her names and laughing at her absence. Even Chief Nkocha's attention dwindled, replaced by business calls and trips. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind, "I beg, my daughter, think of the security. Think of the money." But Regina could no longer find comfort in that logic. Every luxurious gift, every elegant gown, every lavish meal reminded her of what she had lost: her freedom, her youth, her sense of self. Regina's depression deepened. She stopped calling her friends, stopped replying to messages, stopped answering the phone. She spent nights crying silently, staring at the ceiling, wishing she could rewind time and make a different choice. The mansion's grandeur mocked her. Even the gifts he had given her, the jewelry, the cars, the designer shoes, felt like chains. The breaking point came when she overheard a conversation between the other wives. They were laughing quietly, speaking in hushed tones about how she had changed, how she no longer fit into the household. The words pierced her like knives. Regina realized she was alone, truly alone, in the midst of wealth that could not console her soul. That night, she sat by the window, rain streaking down the glass. Her phone lay untouched on the bed. She whispered to herself, "What have I done?" Regina sank into a deep depression. She cried until her eyes were swollen, her voice hoarse. She stopped laughing, stopped eating regularly, and stopped caring about appearances. Friends from her old life tried to reach her, but she ignored them. The glamour she had once dreamed of had become unbearable. It was then that she realized the harsh truth: wealth cannot replace love, cannot replace respect, cannot replace the warmth of genuine companionship. She had traded her youth and her freedom for a life that looked perfect on the outside but hollow within. Months passed in this cycle of regret. Regina barely spoke to Chief Nkocha. Even when he tried to engage her, she responded with silence. The mansion, once a symbol of aspiration, became a reminder of her misjudgment. One evening, Zora managed to reach her by phone. "Regina, I beg, pick up. I need to see you. You cannot live like this." Regina hesitated, then finally answered. Her voice was weak. "Zora. I don't know if I can." "You must," Zora said firmly. "You're not alone. You're still young. You can still take your life back." Regina listened in silence, tears slipping down her cheeks. For the first time in months, she felt a spark of hope, tiny, fragile, but alive. she realized that the life she had chosen was not the only path. That freedom, self-respect, and genuine love were worth fighting for, even if it meant stepping away from wealth and luxury. The next morning, Regina packed a small bag. She left the mansion quietly, unnoticed by the other wives. She didn't know what awaited her outside: the judgment of the public, her mother's anger, the uncertainty of starting over. But she knew she could no longer live in the gilded cage of a life she had chosen without thinking of herself. As she walked down the streets of Enugu, feeling the rain soak her clothes, Regina felt the first real sense of clarity she had experienced in years. She was free, not rich, not admired, but free. And in that freedom, she began to imagine a life where she could find herself again, rebuild her dreams, and perhaps, one day, find happiness on her own terms. Regina's journey had been painful, filled with regret and depression, but it had also been a lesson about choices, desires, and the cost of chasing glitter without heart. And for the first time, she allowed herself to believe that the future could still belong to her.